Well, Douglas Murray, of course, the author of 7 books, including The War on the West and The Strange Death of Europe. He joins Rita every week and he joins me now. Douglas, welcome. Now, you've written a piece in The Spectator this week about the Italian island of Lampedusa, which is at the centre of an illegal migration crisis. Now, this island has a local population of 6,000 people, but they had 7,000 illegal arrivals in just 48 hours last week. And you were there 8 years ago and gave a pretty dire prognosis of the situation at the time. The latest developments, you have to say, even though Giorgia Meloni was elected on a platform of reducing this illegal migration, it's not terribly unexpected, is it?
No, it's not. As you say, I was on Lampedusa in 2015, when the migration crisis was starting in the Mediterranean. It resulted in way over 1 million people illegally entering Europe from sub-Saharan Africa, the Middle East, and many other places. And I saw then, in my resulting book, The Strange Death of Europe, diagnosed what I thought was going to happen based on what I'd seen. Back then, the island was struggling with, a couple of thousand people and trying to get them off the island, and then another couple of thousand would arrive and they'd get them off. And they just pushed the problem north, and pushed it north to Sicily, then to mainland Italy, and from there into the rest of Europe. And the Italians then said 2 things. 1, we can't cope, we can't do this alone. 2, well, the EU needs to do more. Giorgia Meloni, the most right-wing Prime Minister of Italy to be elected for some time, came to power recently on the promise that she was going to reduce the migration. And there she was in Lampedusa this week with Ursula von der Leyen, the head of the EU, saying, again, Italy can't do this alone. We need more help from the EU. And I just thought, nothing has changed except that the problem is getting worse. And it's a real lesson for all countries in Europe, but all of the developed world. The numbers of people who want to come to countries like Australia, Europe, North America is infinite. It's hundreds of millions in sub-Saharan Africa alone that want to come to Europe. Europe cannot take them, but Europe seems incapable of repelling them or deterring them. And in that lies an awful lot of pain and misery for the European peoples in the years ahead.
How is it that Europe is unable to repel these people? Because, of course, in Australia, in 2013, the Abbott government was elected on the policy of stop the boats, and they did that very successfully. And it sort of backed the opposition, the Labor Party, into a corner, and they have supported boat turnbacks ever since. And it's been done with great success. Why can't that be done in Europe?
What Prime Minister Abbott did then was the gold standard for what any democratic government ought to do in this situation. You either have a border or not. If you don't have a border, you don't have a country. Abbott recognized that, as other Australian prime ministers have done as well, but he deserves a credit for that. And what he crucially realized was, again, the number of people who can come to Australia is infinite if you just allow the first ones. Now, unfortunately, the European leaders, much like the current administration in Washington, just doesn't seem to have the guts to do the necessary thing. It endlessly talks about, the needs of the people coming, never about the needs of the people in the countries. European taxpayers don't pay their taxes throughout their lives simply to support an endless welfare state for the third world coming in. And it's not like Europe is just a landing craft of some kind. It's not just an aircraft carrier for the people of the world who want to come. It's a civilization, it's a set of nations, it's a set of peoples, and it cannot infinitely just imbibe millions and millions of people from the developing world. And unfortunately, until such a time as politicians in Europe get serious, like the Australian government did, this problem is going to go on and on. And I just add one thing, if I may, which is this. As I say in The Spectator, it is salutary to notice that a politician like Matteo Salvini in Italy, who stopped the boats, refused to allow them to land, which is the correct policy, has been prosecuted twice in Italy for that. He is treated as a criminal when he is the one that was doing the most basic and legal thing necessary.
Why would you bother, I suppose, is the